Alright, let's talk about Resident Evil 2 on Nintendo 64. You may be wondering why Nintendo 64 and not PlayStation? Because in spite of all the technological advancements made since, to see a game that consumes 2 compact discs packed into a single cartridge still blows my fucking mind. It's not like today where a Switch game card carries as much as 32 gigabytes. No, this fucker is 64 megabytes. I mean, just think about that for a minute. A CD holds 750 megabytes and Resident Evil 2 needed 2 of them. We're talking CD quality audio with spoken dialogue and full motion video on one cartridge. Sounds impossible, right? Remember, Nintendo lost Final Fantasy VII to Sony's PlayStation due to the game pack's memory limitations. On top of that, this is a gory game with decapitations and violent body mutations. Nintendo was notorious for censoring graphic violence and sexual themes in video games. With the release of Mortal Kombat 2 and Doom on Super NES, I thought Nintendo had finally moved beyond their family-friendly image. Then came Duke Nukem 64. Yeah, it's still gory, but much of the sexuality has been removed. That's one thing that always annoyed me with Nintendo, their lack of consistency. I don't get it. Blood's okay now, though God forbid we see a pair of pasties. Taking all of this into account, I'm sure you understand my 16-year-old skepticism now. So, how did it turn out? Holy shit! That was my reaction then. It was startling. I mean, it's Resident Evil 2. It's not a version of Resident Evil 2, but the actual game as I remember it on PlayStation almost 2 years before. Same rooms, puzzles, enemies, gore, full motion video. It's all here. Wow. Before I critique it, let's see some of the features unique to this port. When you start the game, you now choose your difficulty as well as your character. Then you have Original and Randomizer, where enemies and items are placed in different areas, which is awesome. Makes replays feel new and fresh. In addition, there's a Violent Selection where you can adjust the intensity along with the color of blood. I really don't see the point of this, because there's still red blood throughout the game. It doesn't change textures or backgrounds, just the blood spurts. Check this out. Here we have a bunch of zombies munching away on a corpse resting in a pool of green, yet their shirts are bathed in scarlet. What the fuck? Look at these backgrounds here. There's red blood everywhere. I'm sorry, but I think this feature is worthless. Game data is now saved directly to the cartridge, so there's no more dicking around with memory packs. I don't hate memory cards, but Nintendo's memory pack doesn't offer a lot of space. If I don't have to deal with it, then I'm a happy player. Okay, another extra feature exclusive to Nintendo 64 are the EX files hidden throughout either character's scenario. There's 16 in total, but you only find 8 per scenario. Honestly, I've never bothered to find them all. What few I did find, I had already read in Nemesis or Code Veronica. Unless you're a hardcore fan that wants to experience every little thing this port has to offer, these EX files aren't all that important. It was cool then because I couldn't get enough. My appetite for evil was almost insatiable. Nowadays, they're just a curiosity. Like all the other versions of Resident Evil 2 I've played, we have different bonus costumes. Claire has another variation on the cowgirl outfit, but Leon has a biker getup that looks ridiculous. I mean, seriously, he looks like an undercover cop trying to look hip. Thankfully, he has a STARS uniform that looks way better. It kind of bugs me that he gets 2 outfits, though Claire only has 1. How is that fair? Then again, Leon doesn't get that wicked 6-shooter, so I guess it evens out. So cool. As far as exclusive content is concerned, that's about it. It has the same minigames found on the PlayStation original, like the 4th Survivor and the Tofu Survivor. Yeah, I neglected to mention this in the main review because I couldn't unlock him in time. I think it's safe to say that this is one of the craziest fucking things I've ever seen. It's basically Hunk's game, except you're a piece of tofu. Just fucking why, man? If that isn't weird enough, your only weapon is the knife. What the fuck is wrong with you, Capcom? Okay, on with the presentation. First, the cutscenes. They're the same stunning sequences I fell in love with in January of '98. I'm still amazed that they were even included. Not that we hadn't seen FMV on a cart prior to Resident Evil 2. If you remember Red Zone or Sonic 3D Blast, both on Genesis, then you know it's possible. When it came to Nintendo 64, if you had a multi-platform game that used full motion video on CD platforms, the Nintendo 64 would typically replace these scenes with static shots and text. With Resident Evil 2, Capcom and Angel Studios managed what many believe to be impossible. There were a few concessions made. The most obvious is the resolution. These scenes have been compressed so much that many images where there's a lot of movement look murky and pixelated. I can't criticize it too harshly. The simple fact they're even present is awe-inspiring. I do have some nitpicks though. The character-specific shots in B scenario where our chosen protagonist witnesses the helicopter crash have been removed. Also, when Annette Birkin shares her tale of woe, you always hear Claire's voice.
Are you telling me that he injected the G-Virus into his own body?
I think this was done in order to save memory, but couldn't they have made this one line 2 separate clips so we'd hear the appropriate character's voice? While we're on the topic of audio, music and sound effects are superb. Loud, crisp, and in glorious Dolby Surround. It fucking kills. Dialogue is a different story.
What's going on? I arrived in town, and the whole place went insane.
The radio's out.
You're a cop, right?
It sounds great for a cartridge, yes, though it all sounds scratchy and kind of flat. As I said, these are nitpicks. If given the choice of still frames with text or heavily compressed video, the video will win every time. In-game graphics are comparable to Dreamcast. The port utilizes Nintendo's 4MB expansion pack, so 3D models and textures look razor sharp. The backgrounds, on the other hand, don't measure up here. If you look closely, you'll see that some details are lost in spite of the increased resolution provided by the expansion pack. Really, they look like low-res JPEGs. This is made worse by the high-res characters. Again, this is a nitpick. It didn't take away from the experience, I feel. I don't know. The presentation may not be perfect, but fuck me sideways, it certainly comes close. The last thing I'll mention is the control. Using the D-pad is fine, yet the analog stick feels off. Even when I opted for the first-person control setup, I never got a feel for it. Yes, the first-person setup. Like Deep Fear, there is an option where, if you want to move screen right, then you push right, ditching the tank controls. It works a lot better than Sega's Deep Sea Nightmare. The screen doesn't fade to black when moving from one screen to the next. Instead, it's immediate. What makes it funky is that, say I'm moving right. When it cuts to the next screen, I'm still holding right, yet my character is moving upward. The control won't reset until you release the button. This can get a little confusing when avoiding zombies. My personal preference aside, the control is flawless. You know, I like that I have an excuse to use the D-pad. Really, I don't remember playing many games that used it. Never thought my left hand would ever leave Bowser's big toe. Bringing this game to the platform must have been a serious challenge, and if you ask me, they fucking succeeded. I mean, the developers surpassed even my wildest expectations. I know I'm a bit of a nut, though I feel it's a wonderful addition to a fan's ever-growing collection of Resident Evil 2 ports. Seeing this game makes me wish they had done the original as well. I want the Master of Unlocking on Nintendo 64, damn it. Deadly Silence does not count. Please, someone, make this a reality.